Here's one other thing from the Passman article that I actually wanted to get your perspective on as an investor, because maybe you've come across some of these in your life. Is Donald Passman had a lot to say about the rising trend of catalog sales of legacy artists selling their catalogs, usually to investment firms that would buy all of an artist's copyrights and then own it as an investment vehicle, almost like a real estate investment trust, except with copyrights. And then they could maybe sell pieces of that company that owns all those copyrights on the market, maybe sell them as bonds or things like that. And these are becoming very popular now. And a lot of artists are trying to sell their catalogs as a way to kind of make a big lump sum rather than wait for their money to trickle in over time as royalties. But Passman is one of the first voices I've heard that said that he's not a fan of these rising catalog sales, this trend of rising catalog sales, and thinks that they're not great for artists. Here's a quote from the article I thought was pretty powerful. Quote, historically, everybody who has sold their catalog has regretted it. The Beatles catalog sold to Michael Jackson for $47 million. It's probably worth $1 billion today. There's people over the years who have sold their royalty streams, and with changes in technology, they would have made almost as much every year than it would have made them had they sold it for, or at least 2 or 3 years worth. And so, for somebody like you, career investor, you've probably come across some of these in your life. What are your thoughts on this rising trend? Do you think these tend to be good investments for artists?
This last week, I had someone in my office pitching me on getting together with him and buying certain catalogs in a way. But if you go deep on this, what Passman is saying both factually and intuitively is generally totally spot on. Because here's the thing, Ryan, if you're an oil rig in the middle of Oklahoma and you're going up and down and pumping oil, and I come to you and I say, hey, dude, I'll give you $865,000 for that one rig in your backyard in Oklahoma. And you haven't seen a lump sum of $865,000 in your entire life. The sheer number, the magnitude of the number blows away your reason. And so what I know as the buyer is that the present value is not to start to get into to finance, but I know that the recurring revenue in a growing industry, which oil isn't, but music is, I know that the present value, that $865,000 is undervaluing all of the future value of your payments discounted to present value. Let's put those concepts away. But basically what I'm really saying is that these artists are sort of, not all of them, but many are in a wide-eyed way sort of being blown away by the number and actually abandoning sound corporate finance, sound present values, internal rates of returns, multiples on invested capital, all of the words that artists should understand, or concepts that artists should understand, but often don't because you can't know everything. So they are underselling in a growing market what they have. Sometimes the exigencies of their life are the exigencies of their life, and they need the money. And in that respect, it's a service, okay? And some should be grateful for that faucet of liquidity that gets turned on to maybe rescue them from certain predicaments that they're in life. But for the most part, if you put a smart kid who went to NYU business school and he did the present values and the internal rates of return, he would come running in your office and say, "Oh, this is a great buy. The artist is getting screwed." And so there are now evolving twists to how they're being bought. Some buyers are saying we're the kinder, gentler buyer. We're not buying ownership. We're just buying a cash flow stream, and that they get the overage. They have more control. And those are steps towards a more equitable or more fair arrangement. But for the most part, you're selling your oil rig and the money that it's pumping out too cheaply, because it will pump oil for longer than you think. And the demand for that oil, just to extend this silly analogy, the demand for that oil, okay, will be greater than you anticipate, given that the compound annual growth rate of the music industry itself suggests that your music, your oil rig, will have more uses, sync and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you get my drift.
I do. And I think the only group and Passman noted this in the interview, where it might make some sense to take a deal like this, even if, as you noted, the present value isn't, anywhere near what you would, the present value of your future royalty streams would be much higher than what you'd get as a lump sum from an investor.
Right.
But he said one group that it might apply to, where it might be a good play, is artists who are towards the end of their life and don't trust their heirs to be able to manage those copyrights and manage that catalog effectively, or they're running into a potential estate tax issue where they're going to need that lump sum for their heirs to be able to pay the estate tax. So maybe in those kind of end of life scenarios, you're willing to take a huge haircut on the value of your catalog for a lump sum. But I mean, it's basic finance, right? An investment group is not going to pay you more than the present value of your future royalty streams for your catalog. That's not a good investment. Like, the only way it's a good investment is if they're giving you less value than what your royalties are worth.
Right. So if I had a friend who was an artist, I'd say, take a look at the spreadsheet, bring it to a friend who understands IRRs, put it on an Excel spreadsheet, and make sure that the imputed rate of return that the buyer is earning is healthy but not predatory.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.